Hello and welcome to Art with Mrs. G. Today's session is very much about the use of continuous line and bold, simple colour blocks. And it's in response to visiting an artist called Tim Joel in Mousehole, Cornwall, in the far west of England. Let's have a look at some of his work before we get started. Here's the beautiful old fishing village of Mousehole in Cornwall, shining in the sunlight. Tim likes to depict all the little houses and the boats in bold, confident colours and use a continuous, strong line in his paintings. Look closely here and you'll see the use of red line and simple shapes, and that is the style that I want to have a go at with you today. Please watch my video interviewing Tim Joel to find out more about this fascinating artist. I like Tim's work so much that I ended up buying one, and so today I can have a really close look at some of his work using this lovely vermilion hue, this bright red, which he uses for all the features and the outlines of the things in his art, as you can see here. Let's use either an oil pastel or crayons. We can draw the shapes on, our lines on first with a pencil, and then we can cheat by doing a bit of a watercolour wash or poster paint wash over the background if you have it. First, I'm going to position my main objects of interest on the page, which I've decided are boats. And I'm looking at Tim's painting actually of the boats and stealing a few of his shapes, but keeping it really, really simple, as you can see. We'll go for another one down here, move it forward a little bit, using a really lovely continuous line. Now I am pushing quite strongly so that you can see it, but you can be a little bit more gentle with your pencil so that when you go over it with your crayon or oil pastel or something later, it will be easier to cover up. Things always feel better in odd numbers for some reason in art, so I've decided to put 3 boats in the foreground or the front of my artwork. I've done the main shapes first, and then I've added tall masts, and I'm attaching some ropes from the masts down to the boats. To ensure it looks realistic, I'm now adding on some fenders, which are basically like big cushions which stop the boats bumping against each other or against the harbour wall when they're tied up. I add a line underneath the boat as well, and then I ensure that they are attached to the shore via a rope or chain, which I've decided to add to each corner of my artwork. Time to add the background to my artwork, so I've decided to draw a harbour wall with a little ladder up it. The tide has gone out and the boats are stuck on the sandy beach, so I'm drawing the shoreline here and the bay of the harbour. Next I add the shadows onto the boats, and the sun is coming slightly from high on the right hand side of this artwork, and finally the steps go on the harbour wall. Time to add a little bit more detail. On go the seagulls, it wouldn't be the British seaside without them, and finally some little tiny people swimming in the water and having fun on the beach. Time for the fun bit, going over all these lines in my red oil pastel or your crayon. So let's get cracking. Outline your main shapes first, aiming for a continuous and solid line, turning the pastel or crayon so you can find the sharpest edge you can possibly draw with each time. Shade in the shadows nice and solidly. A wee while later, and I've gone over all of my pencil lines. I mainly stuck to red oil pastels, but I couldn't resist sticking a bit of extra colour in on the boats. I've done purple shadows. The lines from the boat are slightly pink actually. The name of the town Mousehole with a little heart, just like Tim did in his art. Little people on the beach with buckets and things and swimming. I've shaded in the seagulls with white oil pastel to stop the paint going in and given them a blue outline. So what you see here is my attempt to imitate Tim Joel's signature. He does his letters in a rather modern style, sideways, his initials, and these sort of 5 fingers on the hand there at the end. So maybe you can invent your own signature. Time for some paint. Grab yourself a nice big brush to fill in the backgrounds if you've got one. First, I use my yellow ochre to fill in the beach and the bay of the harbour. Next, I mix a greeny grey for the harbour walls. I mix a pale milky blue for the sky. And finally, I mix a greeny turquoisey blue for the sea, starting with a pale shade and then getting gradually darker, building the paint up. So here's the finished artwork. Tim Joel, Mrs. G style. I think it's relatively successful, but you're not going to do brilliantly the first time, so it's always worth having another go, and that's what I'm going to go and do right now. Good luck with your artwork, and thanks for watching Art with Mrs. G. See you again soon.